Hey everybody, it's Karen. How are you? Well, this is going to be an interesting one today. Um, I got a lot of feedback from my video yesterday, and I want to talk more about this. I got a lot of response, including the one of the joys of my life, my nephew, and he sent me a private message and was rather disturbed by what I said about marijuana, and that if you have pot, you don't need God. I think I said something like that. And, I understand. And I just love that he said something to me, because it's easy for me in the world that I live in, which is drug addicts and alcoholics and trying to help people get sober. I made a blanket statement, and the world is listening, not just addicts and alcoholics, right? And so even though my audience is alcoholics and addicts and the families of alcoholics and addicts, I can see that I upset some people by what I said. And I want to talk about that. I think it's very important for people that aren't alcoholics and addicts, especially the loved ones, especially the family of alcoholics and addicts, to understand this, not for themselves, but so they can better deal with the alcoholic addict. He categorized substances for me into 3 categories and said I should address them as such: addictive, life-threatening, and mind-altering. Those are the 3 different kinds: addictive, life-threatening, and mind-altering. Yes, those are 3 categories. However, all 3 of those categories will kill an alcoholic addict. So that's why I don't address them separately. The disease that's the problem here. The disease is called alcoholism. It has alcohol in the name only because it was developed in the 1930s. Not developed, but named. It was identified and categorized by alcoholism, the disease. Even though the alcohol is in the word, it doesn't mean that alcoholism is only about alcohol. All it is a name for the mental illness that people suffer from alcoholism. Okay? So, it doesn't matter what you treat it with. It's alcoholism. There are people all over the planet. I have a ton of friends and family, obviously, that smoke pot. It's legal now. In California, it's legal. Even when it's not legal, people smoke pot. There's nothing wrong with smoking pot if you're normal. It doesn't cause you any trouble. Same with alcohol. Alcohol's legal, right? Everybody, just because marijuana has become legal recently, seem to think that it's different. It does have medicinal purposes. So does alcohol. I think there's people that actually benefit from having a glass of red wine with their dinner. They have one glass. It's relaxing for them. Red wine is known to be good for something. I don't know, your heart or something. I don't know. I drank too much for it to be good for anything. But Vicodin helps a lot of people. People take Vicodin because they're in pain, they've been injured, and they take Vicodin, and it gets surgeries, right? People that have been in terrible car accidents are given oxycodone and oxycontin, and it's helpful to them, right? Because they take one every 4 hours or whatever, or the doctor is administering it. That's not the same as an alcoholic addict. It's not. Alcoholics and addicts will abuse anything, right? Anything. You have heard it. Come on. This isn't about pot. Just like it's not about Lysol or hand sanitizer. Do you know that people with alcoholism that need a drink so bad will drink hand sanitizer in hospitals. They take the little bags out of those things against the wall and drink them. This isn't about pot, and it's not about Grey Goose, and it's not about heroin, it's not about wax, it's not about pot, it's about alcoholism. If you take all those things away, people are going to gamble, right? They're going to go to the casino. They're going to do scratchers. They're going to get all the money out of their savings. They're going to mortgage their house. People have gambling addictions, and it's ruining their lives and their families' lives. So you have to understand that when I'm talking about this, I'm not talking about this like I'm going to identify and categorize drugs and alcohol. I'm not. If you're an alcoholic, this is what you need to know. They are going to kill you. That's it. Okay? So, one of the I just had this conversation with this guy this morning. Great guy. I know him very well. I was able to help he and his wife with one of their kids, and who's doing really well right now. And this guy has been very interested in the disease itself. He follows me pretty closely. We've had some good conversations, and he's really interested in the dynamic of the alcoholic addict and the family. And now he's got another kid who is in trouble, and he wanted to talk to me. He did up this big email, and he's going to send off this email. Before he sent it, he thought I better talk to Karen. And I'm glad he did. And the same thought with this kid. It started with marijuana. I can't tell you how many people have come to treatment at the treatment center I worked at, and they come to treatment and they're heroin addicts, they're meth addicts, they're alcoholics, and they get sober, and I try to explain to them what's going on here, what's the problem, and this is the solution. So as soon as you know what the problem is, you can do the solution, you can stay sober. However, they won't quite buy the problem, right? So they leave and they end up relapsing. And the parent will tell me, well, you know what? They just wanted to smoke some pot. You know, they got a lot of stress at school. You know, so I let them start smoking some pot at home. We smoke pot. We smoke pot with them. Nothing wrong with pot. Pot's legal now. I know it's legal now. So is booze. So is champagne. You know what I mean? I get it. Alcoholics and addicts can't do that. I don't care. There are people that relapse, they start drinking NyQuil. Do you understand? Normal people don't do that. They start drinking NyQuil at home. They start taking a Tylenol PM, right? Sold over the counter, Tylenol PM. Pretty soon they're eating 30, 40 Tylenol PMs. This is a mental illness. This is not about your right to smoke pot. This is not me saying, it's not me saying legal pot should be banned. And no, I don't give a fuck about legal pot. I don't care. I would invest in a marijuana plant from a business standpoint. It's big business, right? I mean, what do I care? A lot of people smoke pot. It helps a lot of people. There are people with anxiety and mental illness who have medical marijuana, and that helps them. Yay! I don't have a problem with that, right? What I have a problem with is someone that doesn't understand what's wrong with them. Until you understand what's wrong with you, I don't believe you can fix it. I think you can temporarily. You take away drugs and alcohol from anybody, and they're going to get a little better, right? Life's going to get better, but they won't stay sober. And the reason people can't stay sober is they don't know what's wrong with them. Once they realize it's their thinking, then they know they can't smoke pot, right? They can't smoke pot. They can't gamble. They can, but they're really playing with fire. You're playing with fire, people. Some people quit drinking, and then they have a glass of champagne on at a wedding, right? Maybe they're not really alcoholic. Maybe they were heavy drinkers. I don't know. But I know that the alcoholics and addicts of my type that are like me, out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the kind that are drinking themselves to death, and you know who they are if you have one in your life, that are drinking or drugging themselves to death, right? Whether, I don't care if it's meth, I don't care if it's pot, whatever it is that they're doing, it goes to something else, it switches around, it's all of a sudden, the mind is on the run. Okay, I'm smoking pot, now what am I gonna do? And just like I talked to this guy this morning, he said, my son, that's what he said to me, Karen, my son can't get any higher. He said, Google red marijuana eyes, like red high eyes, and multiply that by 1,000. He said, this guy can't get any more stoned. He's trying. And I said, well, most likely what will happen when an alcoholic and addict smokes pot, they have to do something more. And that's where wax came in. And he goes, oh my God, he's doing wax, right? He's doing wax. And eventually you can't do enough wax. You are so stoned, you can't move. See, that's not recreational. That's not fun. And that's not spiritual. If you smoke pot, if you're normal and you smoke some pot and you have a spiritual experience, I think that's great. Alcoholics and addicts, these kind of people can't do that. There's no experience at all. We experience more, just more, right? So I really don't have a problem with marijuana. I don't have a problem with Grey Goose or any kind of champagne or beer. I don't have a problem with that. Everybody drink up. If you can drink, good for you. I'm an alcoholic. I'm not bodily and mentally normal. My body doesn't metabolize drugs and alcohol like yours does. Once it's in my body, it starts this craving, and I cannot stop that craving. And then the obsession of the mind starts where I gotta have more. And I will steal from you. I will lie to you. I will do anything. I will walk away from my kid. I will walk away from my job, my house, my life, my car. I will end up right out of my mind on the street in the delusion that things aren't that bad because I need to drink. So I can't have anything. So what do? How do I treat it? I found a spiritual answer, right? That's what I meant when I said, if you have pot or Grey Goose or heroin, you don't need God. You don't. You're treating your mental illness with something else. If you don't have those things and you decide to put them down, you're going to need a substitute or you're going to lose your mind. Okay? So if you have stopped drinking and using cold turkey and you don't have an adequate substitute, you're going to have anxiety attacks, you're going to get depressed, you're going to get nervous, and you're going to wonder, what the fuck is wrong with me? You have mental illness. Okay? So I didn't mean to offend anybody. I just really need you to understand. And if you're the family of a loved one, you have to understand your loved one can't smoke pot. If they come home from treatment and they're clean and sober, boom, they need to do what was suggested of them. They need to go to AA or NA. They need to go to church or something, and they need to help, and they need to treat their alcoholism. If they start smoking pot, it's all bets are off. Just like this guy told me this morning, oh my God, my kid cannot get any higher. He's so high, I've never seen anybody so high. He said, even on the movies, this kid is high. And no, it's not going to work for that much longer. He cannot get high enough on pot. He will use something else. So that is my explanation I would love to hear back from you. I know that it's hard to understand, and I know that there's a lot of different categories for drugs, but for an alcoholic like me, all of them are bad. I have to be on my toes. This thing is trying to kill me. And, I got to be honest with myself. And, that's just the way it is. So I hope that helps somebody. I hope it clarifies. I want to apologize to all the people I offended. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.